Recording in progress. Recording stopped.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Carol Ann? I'm talking. Let's see if you can see me. Can you see me?
Craig, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yep.
Can you hear me talking, Craig?
I can. Can you hear me?
I believe I can hear you. It's just the background noise at this point. I think we're going to be
Okay.
okay. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. I'll listen. All right. Thank you.
I'm shutting off my mic now.
I'm going on mute too.
Hello, everybody. I just want to thank you for your patience. We're still waiting for a couple counselors, one to get on by Zoom and one more counselor to come in soon. So. Okay, all right, here's Ryan. Okay. Okay, good. All right. Okay. Yeah, if you can just keep an eye on it, Craig. All right. Council will come to order. The first order of business is a pledge of allegiance and a moment of silence in honor of our servicemen. So all rise and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, that's a good start to our meeting. Thank you very much. We have a few more moments of silence if you would like to. We do a couple things from here. Please, we would like to everybody remain standing for a moment of silence in honor of our veterans, servicemen and women, and those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. I think folks will notice that our Councillor Condon is absent. I think Councillor Sika would like to do something for Councillor Condon. Thank you. Oh, let's see. Yeah, yes, Councillor Sika. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to take a moment of silence for Gene Condon, who passed away suddenly last week. Councilor Condon and his wife were at the airport getting ready to leave on a Vegas vacation, and Gene passed suddenly at the airport. They've been together since they were 14, I think they said. So it's been a pretty long time. So Councilor Condon is, I'm sure having a very difficult time living without the love of his life. Stacy and Paul, their children, their longtime Edgeworth residents, and they're close family friends of my family, and I just want to take a moment of silence for Gene Condon. And when we're done with that, don't shut me off because I have another one.
Yep. All right.
Okay,
All right,
and also the second moment of silence on this past Sunday, the city of Malden lost a legend, Bob Rotundi, who is a longtime youth sports coach, passed away at 85 years old in his house on Sunday. I had the privilege of going to Bob's 85th birthday this past March, and it was truly a testament as to the type of person that he was. All of his former baseball players, and apparently he was a hockey coach, which I didn't realize until just recently. They were all there in attendance. He planned and organized this beautiful birthday bash for himself at the Moose with over 300 people invited. And when I tell you he ordered everything on the menu that Henry's had to offer, it truly was an amazing thing to see if you were there. It was like he had a living wake for himself. There was a line out the door at some points of people coming up to see Bob, because Bob was a pretty big man, so he had trouble getting around the room, so everybody came to him, and it was truly a remarkable thing. And unfortunately, the children of this great city are gonna now lose an amazing man. The stuff that I've seen on Facebook written about Bob over the past 48 hours, he touched so many lives. It's just, and he kept in touch with everybody that he has coached along the way. And yesterday, little fun fact, he coached hockey. I did not know that till yesterday. And apparently Bob was the last coach in the city of Malden to get Malden High School to play at the Garden for the state tournament in the 70s, if you can believe it. Okay. He was the last coach. So it really is, I don't think there's many close family members left. It was Bob and his sister Diane, and she passed away about a year ago. So
yeah. And I guess I'd say in addition, Bob was a longtime member of the Malden Redevelopment Authority, which
Yep.
I worked for, and I know Councilor Linehan served with them on that. So just like an outstanding citizen for Malden. So let's have a moment of silence for Bob.
Thank you.
And then I would like to recognize Councilor Crowe to do a dedication and also.
Thank you, Mr. President. So it has been a sad couple of weeks here in Malden, and last week we lost a police officer, Kevin McKenna. He's only 54 years old, and been a police officer for 30 years. He grew up in my neighborhood. I've known him his whole life. And so his mother, Kathy McKenna, does a lot of work for the Bread of Life and a lot of other community organizations here. But Kevin really was he was a funny guy. Got my brother in trouble a lot, but he was just that, a family. His son Brady is actually following his footsteps into law enforcement. So just really to remember the McKenna family at this difficult time.
Let's have a moment of silence for Officer McKenna. Thank you. And then on behalf of the council, for all the officers that are here tonight, we just send our sincerest regards as well. And it was a wonderful service that happened the other day, and quite an honor for Officer McKenna. Thank you. All right, so we can be seated. Next, the clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Cologne Hayes. Councilor Condon. Councilor Crowe. Councilor Linehan. Here. Councilor McDonald. Here. Councilor O'Malley. Here. Councilor Seega. Here. Councilor Simonelli. Councilor Spatafora is joining us from Zoom. His mic is muted right now, but can we let the record reflect
sorry,
that
here.
Craig Spatafora is here via Zoom. Councilor Taylor. Here. Council President Winslow.
Here. Under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, be informed that UMA, Urban Media Arts, will be recording this evening's meeting. So be aware there will be audio and video recordings of this meeting available to the public. Clerk, first order of business.
First order of business would be public comment.
All right, so public comment is allowed under our council rules. Each speaker is limited to the subject matter relevant to this evening's agenda and must keep their comments to 2 minutes or less. I note that councilors have received many electronic comments associated with paper 2724, and then we will also have 20 people signed up to speak on that issue, I believe. So under our rules, typically we would allot 30 minutes, which would allow 15 speakers. Seeing that we have 20 speakers, I'm going to make sure we allot 40 minutes so every speaker will have 2 minutes, and everybody who signed up will be able to speak tonight. So that's just to make it clear. Just a little bit of starting off here. Malden has, throughout its 375 years, been a generally welcoming place to residents and visitors alike. That norm has helped make Malden the diverse community it has been and continues to be. As council president, and for my fellow councilors, we want to ensure our council meeting tonight provides a space for commenters to safely present their views. So we do have some rules, so we ask that you follow those rules, and this applies to both the speakers and people who are just present in the audience tonight. So, one of the rules is for those who've asked to make comments tonight, please note our council rule 5.05 that states that comments shall be respectful and adhere to the council decorum. In relation to council decorum, one aspect of council decorum is that councilors and their guests address their comments to the chair and the rest of the councilors. So we ask that if you come out to speak, you're addressing the councilors. So that's one key thing. For those of you in attendance, whether speaking or not, I ask that both councilors and the public remain as quiet as possible as speakers make their comments to the council. And please refrain from crosstalk directed towards councilors or others in attendance. So the purpose of public comment is for the council to hear comments from the community. So that's really what it is. We ask that. So clerk, do we have anybody signed up for public comment?
We do.
Okay. Yep. Okay, sorry, let me get the clerk's, yep, sure.
Did you want me to read into the record the numbers that we got?
Okay, so we have some people, let's start off with, under our rules, we also would typically, if there was not a full slate of speakers, we might read comments into the record. Since we have a very overwhelming amount of written records, the clerk has taken the responsibility on our rules to summarize those. So clerk, could you please take a moment to summarize the written responses? Thank you.
Thank you, Council President. So attached to the history of this paper tonight, we have 136 written comments. Of those, 75 were in support of this resolution and 61 were in opposition of this resolution. We had an additional 318 people who wrote into my office but did not want to issue their full name and/or address in order to get their comments on the record per our council rules. And then we also had 340 late submissions, also not attached to the history of the paper because, as you know, the deadline was 4 p.m. I responded to every single email that came through my office in particular, so all of these people knew if their letter got on the record or if it was submitted late, everybody got a response.
Okay, can you just repeat the numbers of people who wrote favorably and those opposed?
I'm sorry, 136 written comments are attached on the record of this paper, 75 are in support, 61 are opposed.
Okay, thank you very much, clerk. All right, so then, so under Rule 5.06, I have the ability to regulate public comments as warranted. In this instance, since we have 20 people, I'm going to increase the time limit up to 40 minutes. So that means each speaker will have 2 minutes to speak. And so otherwise, if we come up to that after the 20 speakers, it's really then the council would have to suspend rules to let anybody else speak. So clerk, will you call the first speaker to the up to the podium, please?
I apologize in advance for the
Okay.
way I'm going to pronounce these names. Mohammed Chawiki.
All right, thank you.
This is very low. But I'm gonna
Please,
try my
yeah,
best.
please state your name and address for the record. Thank you. Okay. Okay, yeah. Just please state your name and address for the
My
record.
name is Mohammed Shwaiki. I live in 53 Claremont Street, Malden, Massachusetts.
Thank you.
I've been always a Malden resident. I went to Malden High School. I went to Linden School for middle school. And for the past, and one of the things I genuinely love about Malden is how diverse Malden is. I went to high school. I learned so many different, languages just from going to high school and interacted with so many different people. For the past few months, I've had the privilege to go to a hospital in Boston and spend a lot of time with 2 children from Gaza. One of them, his name is Anas, and he's a 13-year-old, and one of them is Asir. Asir is 5 years old. Asir had his leg amputated, his right leg from under the knee. Anas, his legs are so burnt. They showed me pictures. It's basically bone. There's literally nothing left. They do treatments, and now he's walking. He called me one day and told me, Muhammad, I can walk 40 steps. And he's very, very happy about that. One day, I was at Anas's, and I was there visiting them, and Anas started to cry. And he told me, I had this conversation with him when he said, Muhammad, I miss my mom. He lost his mom. He lost his dad. He lost his siblings. He has 2 brothers and 2 sisters that he lost. He told me, Muhammad, I miss my mom. Muhammad, I miss my dad. I miss my brothers. I miss my sister. What am I supposed to say to him? I stared at him with a blank face. He told me, Muhammad, how am I going to live the rest of my life without them? And there are many, many children just like Anas. He's a 13-year-old kid. And there's so many others like Asir, who's 5 years old. You can tell when they smile at you, they look at you with a sense of sadness. You can see they're smiling, but there's something that's deep within. I believe that it's our responsibility to do something to stop this, and this this resolution will be one of the first steps. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Clerk will call the next speaker up.
Yitzchak Rabinowitz, I'm sorry.
So, yes, state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Yitzchak Rabinowitz, 265 Fellsway East. And I am the rabbi of a congregation Beth Israel, 10 Dexter Street. So one of the things that this ceasefire calls for, or it talks about how, yes, all life is precious. And that's true, all life is precious. However, there are many children that have been kidnapped and have remained in captivity and remain in captivity. There are many children in Israel who have lost their parents, siblings. There were many children who were abducted together and they watched grandparents being taken away. They watched grandparents being murdered. The problem with the ceasefire is that we all want peace. We don't want war continuing. But the problem is that we are dealing with a terrorist organization called Hamas that actually does not have any kind of dignity for life. Using your citizens as human shields is not called having dignity for life. That's not dignity for life. And actually mistreating your own people when they want to speak out against what they feel is wrong, or when people are trying to retrieve their own humanitarian aid and are either pushed away, shot, scared away, these are not people who respect life. I've been living here for 27 years. And this is a beautiful city that respects everyone. And I've met so many people that have been seeing the different things that I have done, that our synagogue has done. And this really is a city that respects and loves life. And therefore, I ask you not to support this resolution, because keeping Hamas in place is not called respecting life. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Ahmad Said.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ahmed Saeed. I live in 40 Cedar Street, Malden. I'm Palestinian American. I have lived under the Zionist persecution, occupation, and oppression, and apartheid, and I experienced it firsthand. Gentlemen, it is horrible. Ladies and gentlemen, it is horrible to live under these kind of circumstances. Any kind of human being with these kind of inhumane treatment will have to resist these kind of conditions. Holocaust survivor Merrick Edelman, he spoke against the Zionist project in Palestine, and he went as far as supporting armed resistance against the occupation. More recently, Lily Greenberg, she just resigned from the Biden's administration over its support of the genocide. She was previously a Zionist. Recently, right last October, the Malden City Council, or the mayor, issued a statement regarding the October 7 resistance attacks to the Zionist occupation forces. In that letter, in that state, it was one-sided. It has completely ignored Palestinian suffering and atrocities committed by the Zionist occupation. It aroused emotions that put our community at risk of hate crimes and harassment of our children in Malden public schools. We're not asking the city council to free Palestine or undo all the injustices that the Palestinian people have gone through. We all have seen the horrible atrocities in Gaza.
You're over time, so I'll give you 5 seconds to wrap up. Thank you.
We're just asking for a simple resolution to stop these crimes. If you don't want to deal with your conscience to stop these, then these people that you just talked about that have lived with no parents, with no family, children that are just alone right now, some of them with no limbs, you have to answer them one day. As a matter of fact, you might have to answer to your kids and your grandkids, why didn't you do something about it?
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Next speaker, thank you.
Waltham Gross.
Good evening, Council. Okay. I'm going to speak to the words that were drafted, Council. I'm going to speak to the words.
Alexei, excuse me. Could
Oh,
you
my name is
speak in
Nathan
name
Gross.
and address, right?
And my address is 73 Russell Street, Malden. My family has been here for a century.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr.
I live in Israel 3 months of the year. So, the words matter. I see condemnation of every kind of violence in this resolution except violence against women. 2 words are missing: the terrorist, murderous, genocidal attack of October 7th, where 1,200 children, teenagers, men, women, babies were brutally murdered and raped and tortured and live streamed. I could have gotten behind this resolution if against women was included in the word after the word violence, but it's glaringly missing. We cannot ignore what happened on October 7th. The next 2 words that I have an enormous problem with: you cannot call convicted murdering terrorists in Israeli prisons administrative detainees and call for their release in a resolution. I'm sorry, you might as well be advocating for the release of the Sarnaya brothers. Are you kidding me? These are murderers. These aren't people with bad papers. That's what you're euphemistically calling them, and it's Orwellian doublespeak. I apologize. Finally, you talk about the dignity of Israelis and Palestinians, and I was there October, the whole month of October. I could have gotten out the first day, but I stayed an extra month to help. On October 6th, I never saw an Israel more divided. The left was mad at the right was mad at the left. The centrists were mad at everybody. 10,000 people demonstrating against the government to form a new government after 2 years, 4 elections to elect one government. The religious were mad at the non-religious. The Jews were mad at the Arabs. Let's not forget that the only place in the Middle East where a Muslim Arab woman has full civil rights is Israel, and 1/3 of the Israeli population is Muslim and Arab. And what did I see on October 7th? Everybody put their social, political, religious nonsense crap aside and went to work. Miriam, the Olympic gold medalist who owned the hotel I lived in, gave the keys to the Palestinian Israeli who'd been working for it since he was 16 and said, "You're in charge." And that man had my back for a month. The Druze police officer who I made friends with, who was a detail cop, that man drove from his house the 3rd day of the war to make sure I had what to eat because the stores were closed. That's Israel. That's Israel. If you're gonna stand for peace and dignity in the Middle East, you have to stand with Israel. You gotta delete the language that de facto supports a terror state known as Hamas. And I will close with, the only people occupying Gaza is Hamas. Israel removed itself unilaterally in 2005.
All right, I asked that as speakers are speaking that there be no response, all right? I asked, all right. Next speaker, please.
Jessica Connolly.
All right. Please give your name and address, thank you.
Jessica Connolly. Excuse me. This is Can you hear me? Jessica Connolly, 17 Corey Road, Malden, Massachusetts. I am asking you to vote no to this specific resolution and instead work together to ensure Malden is a place for no hate of any kind for anyone. Here in Malden, while going through ongoing daily trauma from hearing stories and talking with survivors in Israel and in Palestine, I have been ostracized, dismissed, ignored, insulted, bullied, stalked, threatened, harassed, publicly named, doxxed online, named in a Freedom of Information Act as an act of intimidation by the Massachusetts Teachers Association, have been told by people who aren't Jewish what is and isn't anti-Semitism, and slandered. My professional career was threatened, supported by a candidate for my ward's state representative. A video out of context of me at our home, filmed by a member of that campaign and the Malden for Palestine group, remains online for anyone to see and locate and identify my house and family. All of this was for respectfully speaking about my fears of anti-Semitism and all hatred and bullying in our schools at a school committee meeting in January. Since October 7th, I have been abandoned by those here and those throughout Malden who I have always walked with as allies against hate and for social justice and for humanity. I have been in agony and fear since October 7th. My family and friends were murdered and taken hostage. My father has lived in Jerusalem half-time for over 20 years, as is with his spouse and my step-siblings and children, my
Jess,
cousins.
you're over time, so please wrap up. Thank you.
I am asking you to come together, put aside our differences, and for us to work together to put something together to heal what's going on here in Malden and ensure that Malden is no place for hatred of any kind for anyone. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next speaker.
Mohammed Muslim.
Just remember your name and address for the record. Thank you.
My name is Mohammed Musallam, 64 Essex Street.
Right.
Thank you. I stand before you to support the ceasefire resolution. For the past couple of months, I've been visiting the same two little boys from Gaza that Mohammed spoke of. Anas does not know whether to cry out of pain or cry for longing for his mother's comfort. His 5-year-old brother had his leg amputated without pain medication or antibiotics, only for it to get infected, amputated, infected, amputated again and again. There are 80,000 injured like them. While the surrounding cities pass ceasefire resolutions, unfortunately, the city of Malden is run by a bunch of Islamophobes. When the Muslim community bought a building to establish a mosque, our elders were brought to Malden City Hall, humiliated, and were forced to give up the building. A month ago, a school committee member made Islamophobic remarks with no condemnation from any of you. You are all complicit in your bigotry and Islamophobia. Despite this, we have treated you with kindness. Unfortunately, you have mistaken kindness with weakness. We have been holding funeral prayers at our mosque every day for Malden residents who have lost loved ones in Gaza. My community has been grieving for months, yet only one elected official reached out to the Muslim community. The rest of you remain indifferent to our grief and intimidation and to bullying that our children endure. Many of you hide your Islamophobic and bigotry behind your progressive banner. Ari Taylor, Amanda Lenahan, and Steve Winslow, be careful.
10 minutes.
Your Islamophobia is showing. For the non-progressives not supporting this resolution, I expect no less of you. The rising tension of this conflict is fanning the flames of intolerance, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia. We demand that you stop your anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, and bigotry. We demand that you pass the ceasefire resolution. Thank you very much.
Next speaker.
Ethan Goldhammer.
Ethan Goldhammer, 35 Waite Street Extension. As a Jewish resident of Malden, I want to have my voice heard as a supporter of this resolution. I universally condemn all the powers involved in this conflict, the State of Israel, Hamas, and most importantly here, our local and national government, who's financially and morally supported the immoral genocidal actions of Israel's war machine for so long. I've lived here the better part of a decade, and the strongest Jewish community I've found has been in the Malden for Palestine group, a lot of them back here. I've never really had any interaction with most of the group that is held up as the Jewish community and speaks on behalf of the Jewish community in Malden, and we're trying to change that. And there's a huge number of us that are supporting this ceasefire resolution. This does not feel like Jewish community to me. It's not what I was raised as, to be Jewish. This blind faith in a country that's actively engaging in war crimes, to be that as your community value is embarrassing and disgraceful, and I don't want to be part of it. We're supposed to be people of the book, people who think critically and re-examine what we've been taught. I've watched the State of Israel use propaganda and free vacations to misinform dozens of kids I grew up with, and the results of that are on display. I'm sure a lot of the people who are draped in flags and doing all this went on these trips, ate up this propaganda, and are continuing to support this and support the money that's going into this. So as a people of the book, I've read up on the subject, I met real humans, I thought it over, and I think we should condemn all the terrorists, all the war criminals, free everyone. Ceasefire now.
Nancy Khan.
All right. That's all right. Order. If I. We're here to hear the people speak to the council. So if we are here to hear the speakers speak. So, all right. Please. So I ask. Please. That's what? Does the council want to make a motion related to signs and just have everybody put their signs down? So, all right, okay, all right. Oh, Councilor Sika is making a motion that we ask that, as part of decorum, that everybody take their signs down. So, all right. Is there a second? All right. All right. All right. All right, let's, all right. All right. All right. All right. I think Lieutenant Powell's handle it. We do ask people to be respectful and have the signs. The purpose of this meeting is to take public comment. If you're having behavior that's inconsistent with presenting public comment. We will, that is outside of decorum. Thank you. All right, so next speaker.
I'm Nancy Kahn. I live at 112 Floral Ave, Malden. Nancy Kahn, 112 Floral Ave, Malden. I've lived in Malden all my life. I've witnessed so many growing pains in this city that they were experienced here. The city offers such a wide range of cultural experiences, from going through an expansion to the inclusion of many different cultures and diversity, and we're still on a learning curve. It's taken Malden a long time to reach a place of having the resources necessary to meet the needs of everyone in the city, to reach a point of acceptance, tolerance, and the welcoming of the many nationalities in our community, with the common goal of living in harmony, learning the different ways of life, experiencing different cultures of foods and ways that they live, and we all live. To rest our city in the global political climate to champion one nationality will accomplish nothing more than split this city apart. I cannot understand why, other than the personal political aspirations of those who represent us, some of those who represent us, this ceasefire is aimed at Israel, yet no other global conflict is being presented. To what end? The city councilors at large have an obligation to each and every citizen in this city, not just those that could benefit them personally or professionally. We should be focusing on the us, small us. As Ken Burns said at the commencement address at Brandeis a few weeks ago, there can be no them. There has to be only us. And I urge you to vote no on the ceasefire resolution. Hamas is a terrorist organization that will stop at nothing. I'll end with this. Rather than throwing around the term genocide, I recommend you spend a little time at the Auschwitz exhibit in Boston at the Castle and the New England Holocaust Memorial at the Freedom Trail. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please. Thank you.
Edwin Andrews.
Thank you. My name is Edwin Bartolon Andrews. I live at 83 Cleveland Street in Ward 8. I am here to urge the esteemed members of this council to vote no on the proposed ceasefire resolution regarding Israel and Gaza. What is happening is tragic, but is solely the result of Hamas breaking the existing ceasefire on October 7th on the festive Jewish holiday of Simchat Torah. Calling for a ceasefire now before Israel has destroyed Hamas simply plays into Hamas's and its enablers' hands. My background is a bit different than others. My mother was born in Morocco, descended from Jews who fled the Spanish Inquisition and who then lived peacefully in Muslim-majority Morocco. My mother survived World War II because sailors on the USS Massachusetts, harbored right here in Fall River, helped free North Africa during Operation Torch on November 8, 1942. Had it not been for this campaign, she, along with the rest of the Jewish community in Morocco, would likely have met the same fate that 6 million Jews and 5 million others met in Europe simply because of who they were. Had Israel existed in 1939, the Jews of Europe, including Anne Frank, would have had a safe haven, and many, if not most, of my fellow Jews would have survived the Holocaust. The reestablishment of the State of Israel on May 14, 1948, was the dream of Jews for more than 3,000 years due to virulent anti-Semitism, from the Crusades to the Inquisition to pogroms that culminated in the Holocaust. Every Passover Seder ends with "next year in Jerusalem." That dream was fulfilled on that day. This ceasefire resolution has no place in Malden politics for many reasons. This resolution only serves to divide this beautifully diverse community and would prevent the only majority Jewish nation from defending itself from entities that have vowed to destroy her. One unintended result of Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th is to make me, and perhaps many others, feel more Jewish than I ever have felt. I again urge members of this esteemed body to vote no on a ceasefire resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Amy Abu Shahab.
My name is Amy Abushanab. I live at 5 Pagum Street in Malden. And thank you for all of your patience with a lot of us bringing our kids. For many of us, this is an issue that directly relates to all of our families, and I think it's also important to remember that kids are the ones who are the most affected by this conflict. And so that's why Leif and I are up here together. You want to say hello? Hello. Speaking in support of the ceasefire resolution. When my husband Sinan, Leif's dad, and I moved to Malden in 2019, it was in large part due to the cultural diversity and progressive values that make our city so unique. Malden has largely lived up to that reputation through its numerous events, proclamations, and policies, like celebrating Pride just this last weekend, Juneteenth coming up, Lunar New Year, the menorah lighting, investing in renewable energy, divesting from Russian investments, and countless other policies that you all have made possible. These policies are a crucial part of lifting up the humanity and dignity of Malden residents and their many intersectional identities. I implore you all to continue that legacy by supporting the proposed ceasefire resolution. By affirming our calls for a ceasefire, the City Council would be advocating, as it says in the resolution, for the safety, dignity, freedom, collective humanity of all people, regardless of their religion, race, ethnicity, or nationality. Prior to moving to Mass, I lived in Palestine. I saw firsthand what South Africans themselves have called out as an apartheid system. They know what apartheid is. They see what's happening in Palestine. They say it's apartheid. Israel restricted water flow to the point, with the family that I lived with, they restricted the water flow to the point where we couldn't shower, do laundry, or have enough to drink. Meanwhile, the settlement, just 5 miles down the road, have green grass and swimming pools full of water. It's not for a lack of water, it's a lack of equity. Israel's checkpoints within the West Bank prohibited us from visiting my husband's extended family who live a mere 20 miles away. Israeli settlers placed trailer homes on our family's land. Now, baby, you want to go see Tata?
Okay.
They placed trailer homes on our family's land and declared it their own, preventing us from accessing our olive and fruit trees. While settlements are built daily by Israelis, Palestinians are prevented from doing so. If they still choose to do so, it's with the very high risk that Israel will bulldoze their home, and in Rachel Corrie's case, even kill you while doing it. The farmer's market that we frequent was burned to the ground this week by Israel.
Amy, you're over time, so please, 10 seconds to wrap up, all right?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, okay. I'll skip to the meaningful part. Life in any form in Israel, in Gaza right now, is treated as a threat. Naked Israeli hostages with a white flag attempting to flee were shot on sight, parents forced to abandon their children at gunpoint, neonatal babies left to rot in incubators, families killed in tents in what was declared a safe zone, a 7-year-old weighing 11 pounds, half the weight of my son.
Amy, your time's up. Sorry.
But there was stuff with my son.
Your time's up.
You need a call for ceasefire.
Your time is up.
I'm just cleaning up now.
All right, great.
You can call the next person, I'm just cleaning up.
All right.
Lara Germanis.
We'll save it.
Thanks to the City Council for hearing this resolution today. My name is Lara Germanis. I'm a Malden resident and practicing physician and educator on faculty at Harvard Medical School. I'm here to support the resolution for an immediate and permanent ceasefire and release of all hostages and prisoners. I'm here today wearing scrubs and a white coat because my colleagues in Gaza cannot. They have to change into civilian clothes when leaving the hospital because their white coats make them a target of Israeli occupation forces. Israel has decimated the Palestinian healthcare system. Since October 7, the WHO has recorded a total of 890 attacks on health facilities. Over half of those are in the West Bank, where there is no Hamas. Netanyahu actually funneled funds to Hamas to help defeat prospects of a Palestinian state for years. He funneled billions of dollars. 2 scientific papers published by my Harvard Med colleagues demonstrate that Israel has targeted hospitals and schools using satellite data. This is just some of what we taxpayers are paying for in Gaza. This is why this is a profoundly local issue. We've sent over $300 billion to Israel since its creation, almost double what we send to any other nation in the world. In Malden, we send almost $1 million a year to Israel. Malden residents are facing housing insecurity and unaffordable health care. We have so much more we could be spending our tax dollars on, rather than spending our money on what the International Court of Justice has called a plausible genocide. Personally, my father was born in Jerusalem, Palestine. My grandfather was a lawyer in Palestine, where prior to the creation of Israel, Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived peacefully side by side. That vision of peace could happen again. It starts with ceasefire and a diplomatic resolution which enables all to live in dignity, which makes sure that Palestinians should also have equal rights and that Israel should end its illegal occupation and apartheid system, which Amy described, and Palestinians should have self-sovereignty. These are basic things. In 1948, my grandfather fled with my father, grandfather, and uncles to escape the Nakba when over 750,000 Palestinians were killed and expelled from their villages and homes by Zionist militias. We are not allowed to return to our home, and our family home was stolen by Israel because we are Palestinian Christians. I urge you to support this resolution in closing, because if you don't, you will be voting to kill and let die thousands of Palestinians starved and bombed to death with our tax dollars. 2 out of 3 Americans support ceasefire, and over half are against military funding to Israel. I urge you to vote for ceasefire.
All right, thank you very much. Great. Okay, next speaker.
Okay. So, not sure if that address got put on the record,
Okay.
but Lara is at 14 Townsend Street in Malden.
Okay, sorry about that. All
The
right.
next speaker is Louise London.
All right, Luis, could you please state your name and address for the record?
Hello. Louise London, 10 Spruce Street, Malden. I've lived in Malden most of my life. I'm a Malden Public School graduate, as are our children, and I was employed in our schools for more than 30 years. My family and friends and I grew up in a city that accepted and honored everyone, no matter their faith, their ethnicity, their anything. Hence, I was shocked and immensely disappointed to hear that our city council might consider adopting a ceasefire resolution involving Israel. I'm here to state that I vehemently oppose the adoption of such a resolution, which would only result in division, resentment, and hurt amongst our citizens. Please, please do not support this ceasefire resolution. I'm asking you, I'm begging you, I'm demanding it. Yes, I grew up in a Malden melting pot that I knew and loved. Thus, it's difficult for me to believe there is a Malden for Palestine movement. The people who are part of this movement fail to ever mention the obscene horrors of the October 7th massacre. They don't mention the murders and burnings of babies, the rape of women, the killing of innocent youth at a music festival, and other unbelievably heinous atrocities that basically amount to derangement. There's no mention by this Malden for Palestine group that Israel gave Gaza to the Palestinians years ago, when it was in pristine condition, and now it is a self-made hellhole. No mention that Palestinian children are taught in school to hate and kill Jewish people. No mention that Palestinians voted the evil Hamas into power. No mention that Hamas is akin to Nazi. Adopting this resolution would be an extremely divisive action for our greatly diverse city. It's clear the old hatred of anti-Semitism has once again reared its ugly head worldwide, and that it has revealed itself to all, alerting those of us in its path, namely Jewish people, that we're never safe from hatred, intolerance, and violence, not even in our beloved American hometowns and cities, where we might think we're safe, secure, accepted, and free from danger. I'll end with the following quote and my wish for you all. May your family never be kidnapped while the world demands you cease fighting for them. Thank you.
All right, next speaker. Please state your name and address. Yeah.
Mohammed Abutak.
Hi, my name is Mohammed Abu Taha. I'm a Palestinian American. I live at 190 Mountain Ave. I've been living in Malden for the past 30 years. The reason I'm here in Malden, because I was in the first uprising. The Israeli army attacked our mosque where I was praying the Friday prayer, and they started shooting tear gas and rubber bullets in the prayer. And we had to jump from the second floor. I broke my backbone. So my brother was here, my mother decided to send me back here to America. That's the only reason I'm here in the US. So it's crucial for Malden to ask for a ceasefire. We are, as Palestinians, every single Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim feel deeply frustrated, a great sense of anger, sadness. Every single Palestinian right now knows someone that has been killed. Every single Palestinian is a part of a story of displacement or destruction. Every single Palestinian has a relative that's either missing a limb or a loved one. Every single Palestinian in the world is traumatized by this. And in some ways, being outside of Palestine, being away from it all hurts even more, because you see your people being killed and starved and brutalized, and you cannot do nothing about it. It feels like it's a return to some of the days after 9/11, the dehumanization, the feeling of complete disregard for our humanity at the level of government, at the level of media, feeling of an increase in surveillance, the feeling an increase in bigotry. People are losing their jobs, and people are being berated on campuses, in grocery stores, and people are being killed. We also, as Palestinians, refuse to be cornered in a position where we are told condemn acts of violence and not to speak about the violence that's committed against us here and abroad. By the way, 67% of the country wants a ceasefire. 3/4 of the Democratic voters want a ceasefire. 69% of independents want a ceasefire. Half of the Republicans voters, 56% want ceasefires.
So, Mohammed, wrap it up, please. Thank you.
Okay, I just want to add you one more thing. You might call yourself human rights crew, progressives. Maybe the term progressive stops when it comes to Palestine. Progressive for everything except for Palestine. Where are all your notions for social justice? Ceasefire now, please.
Next speaker.
Next speaker.
Fern Remedy Brown.
My name is Fern Remedy Brown. I live at 21 Ivy Road in Ward 3. Because of hate, I have no family on my father's side. They were murdered by Nazis and those who did not stand up against hate. Very few people stood up against the Nazis. A small number of people willing to stand up for what's right does not make them wrong. It was only because of one righteous Gentile that my father's life was saved, which allows me to stand here before you. I strongly ask that you vote no on an Israel ceasefire resolution because it would cause irrevocable harm to members of our community. The media would lead you to believe that a ceasefire resolution between Israel and Hamas will help the citizens of Gaza. If Hamas cared about its citizens, their people would not be starving. Hamas shoots the civilians who try to receive humanitarian aid. Hamas has broken 5 ceasefires against Israel, including the one in place on October 6th. A ceasefire only gives Hamas time to strategize to attack again. If Hamas wanted a ceasefire, they would have released the hostages. If the world had demanded an unequivocal, immediate release of the hostages, there would have been no need for a war to defend Israeli citizens. But the world only blames Israel. Hamas Nazis caused the war that began on October 7th with their heinous attacks on innocent Israelis. Hamas has only one goal: the destruction of Israel, Jews, and all infidels, including Christians and the USA. In 1941, Grand Mufti Haj Amin al-Husseini told his host, German Chancellor Adolf Hitler, that Arabs were Germany's natural friends because they had the same enemies, specifically the Jews. Sadly, our city government has been infiltrated by this poison. Unless we want to support radical Islamic ideology here in Malden, we should be supporting Israel's efforts to rid the world of terrorists. Let us not embolden Hamas and be among those who supported the Nazis who murdered my family. Let us use our critical thinking and knowledge of history and stand up for the truth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
David Chasen. Zava Chasen.
Name and address for the record.
Zieva Chasen, 20 Summer Street. Fellow councilors, since moving to Malden recently, I spent a lot of time at the Holocaust Memorial. It reminds me of my people's legacy of fighting, not just reminds me of people's legacy of fighting and the lengths we went to. Like the Palestinian resistance now, we fought then with everything we had. That's why I know Hamas will never be eradicated by military means. Every Palestinian martyred by the IOF leaves behind loved ones who will do whatever it takes to win their freedom from apartheid and genocide. Anyone who is of a people that has had to fight against their own extermination knows this in their bones. George Jackson, a black liberation fighter, said, "My brother's immolation means war, war to the death, war to the utmost, war to the knife." We Jews should understand this better than most given our history. Those of us who do are not a small minority. Our numbers will be growing and will continue to do so as more of us continue to see the truth about Israel and what's happening and has been happening in our name. And ceasefire is the only choice to make for peace. The time for you to make your choice is approaching fast, counselors. I hope that whatever choice you make, you can live with it because our community will never forget it. I'd like to use the rest of my time for a moment of silence for Palestinians killed since October 7th.
Okay, next speaker, thank you.
Matthew Garland.
Good evening, councilors. I'm Matthew Garland. I live at 108 Hawthorne Street. My name is Matthew Garland. I live at 108 Hawthorne Street. I'm the executive director of Congregation Beth Israel, one of the leaders of Malden's local Jewish community. These yellow flowers we have represent the 121 hostages who are still in Hamas captivity, either dead or being raped and tortured. Giving our neighbors a voice is an admirable endeavor, but this effort is fundamentally flawed. Helping one group cannot come at the expense of harming another. War is tragic. All civilian deaths are tragic. But this is a toothless resolution. It has no impact on global geopolitics. It only impacts us here locally. I cannot state strongly enough how dangerous this ceasefire resolution is to the Jewish community. Ceasefire resolutions embolden anti-Semites. Anti-Semitism has already risen in America by 400% in the past 8 months. Violent anti-Semitism in some of the major Jewish communities just continues to spike. New York, Los Angeles. Just the other day, you may have heard somebody drove up onto a lawn to try to run over Jewish students entering their classroom. That level of violence has not hit Boston yet, but it's just a matter of time. I urge you, if you vote for this ceasefire resolution, the only thing that you are doing, practically speaking, is endangering the Jews in Malden. You are having no other...
Let them speak, please.
You are having no other impact anywhere else. I urge you, protect the Jews in Malden and vote no on this resolution.
Next speaker.
Suad Akib.
Thank you for having us. My name is Suad Akib, and I live at 25 Weber Street. I'm having a hard time, to hear both sides. Common sense, just like we all demand ceasefire resolution. I don't understand how can you keep seeing children dying, mothers, doctors, professors. They burned the schools, they burned the hospitals, they burned the camps, refugee camps, all of them. What else left to be burned for not stopping this fire? What? The dirt? What? Everything is already gone. And I deal with the city of Malden always in the positive way. Everybody has a big heart. Everybody has a loving, arms that can keep you in the arm, hug you, and give you peace. But why now? This should be hustle to stop this fire, or be like Malden, one of the other cities who already signed up for the ceasefire. I'm having a hard time. Please help me understand what's going on. Why not stop this fire? Why? What's hard about it? So please, ceasefire resolution now.
Next speaker.
Masha Manong.
Thank you. My name is Masha Manong. I live at 296 Bryant Street in Malden. My lineage is African American on my father's side and First Nation Nipmunk on my mother's side. So I know something about genocide, and I recognize it when I see it. And I see it with what's happening in Gaza right now. So I'm here to support the resolution. I think it's the least that we can do. It's not really getting to the issue of the money that's being spent and the arms that are being sent to Israel. It's not going to really stop that war. But at least we should shamelessly say we have to do something. So I'm here to support it. It doesn't make me anti-Semitic because I support a ceasefire. No one's children is more important than another. There is bloody hands on both sides. Hamas may be terrorists. Netanyahu is also.
All right. Please.
Anyway, that's all I have to say.
All right. All right, thank you. We have two more speakers, so next speaker, please.
Sean Connolly. Sean Connolly.
Okay, all right. Okay, is that? No, it's too late. No, but.
Hello, my name is Sean Connolly. I live at 17 Corey Road. This caught me by surprise. I did write something in. I wasn't expecting to come up here and speak, but thank you for the opportunity. Yes. So I'm going to wing it. And what's disturbing on many counts, is, look, I don't like Netanyahu either. I don't like what he's done. I've never been a fan of him. But it's disturbing to not hear the other side to talk about the evils of Hamas and what Hamas brings to their people. They have a way of life that is discriminatory, horrible against women, one that trains children to hate Jews. I mean, they're awful. And it's really, as a progressive lefty, very strange to have so many progressive lefties support this and not make the distinction between this. And because it goes against a sense of life that we all have fought against. So I just don't get that part. I'm sorry. Look, we can acknowledge blame on both sides. I get that. But Hamas are terrorists. And we need to hear more of those distinctions. We need to hear, yes, they are terrorists, but the fighting needs to stop. Yes, there are terrorists, but the hostages also need to be released. Both things are true. We don't want war. We don't want innocent Palestinians killed. It's horrible. We want the hostages to be released. We want the war to stop. And we want some sense of peace and dignity for all. So that's all I got. Thank you.
I think we have our final speaker now. All right.
Nicole Masalam.
Okay. Nicole Masalam. Nicole.
Hi, my name is Nicole Musalam. I live at 64 Essex Street here in Malden. Before I begin my comments, I know this has been a very emotionally charged conversation, so I would like to encourage everybody, first and foremost, to just take a moment, breathe in, hold it, and breathe out a little bit. So I'd like to begin today by first and foremost thanking the officers who, have put in a lot of effort to keep everyone safe here today. And I stand before you as someone who has served as the executive director of various mosques within our community for over a decade. In that capacity, I have served as ambassador, guardian, and comforter, not just to the Muslim community, but to a broad spectrum of the faith community. I've been engaged in building these bridges across our communities and engaging in dialogue. And with all of that said, I want to take this conversation away from the heightened emotion that we see here this evening and bring it down to the facts on the ground. As a member of the Malden Mosque, who worships here and lives here, we have been holding funeral prayers twice a day, every single day, simply for the family members that have been murdered from Malden residents. This is a local issue. Our tax dollars are being used to fund this slaughter. And I hear the grief of those who have lost and suffered on October 7th. But as a woman of faith, I go back to the Bible, because I am also a person of the book, where it says an eye for an eye. That is not meant to say that, you do something to me and I do something to you. No, it is a law of proportionality. And the proportion here is way out of line. Our tax dollars should not be funding this. Now, I seriously doubt many of those who have spoken against this resolution have actually read it and understood it in its entirety. And to give one example, I listened to somebody earlier say administrative detainees should not be released because they are criminals. I read to you now the definition of an administrative detainee. It is a person held without trial, without having committed an offense on the grounds that he or she plans to break the law in the
Nicole,
future.
I'm going to give you 10 seconds to wrap up, all right? Great. It's almost 3 minutes now, so yeah, great.
There is obviously not enough time given to address all of the misunderstandings and misinformation that have been presented in this room. So I'll make it simple. We ask that you, as our elected representatives,
Give her a chance to wrap up, please. Great.
excuse me?
Okay. Give her a chance to wrap up, please. All right. Quiet, please. Go ahead.
Please,
Right.
sister, please.
All right. Stop,
Okay,
stop.
guys, stop. We ask you, as our elected representatives, to listen and look at the facts on the ground and instruct our federal government to quit using our hard-earned tax dollars to fund a very disproportionate response, killing and mass slaughtering innocents. Thank you.
Thank you. So, in order to move along with the business of the council, I'm using my discretion as council president to move paper 27124 up on our agenda, so we discuss the resolution immediately now that the public has had the opportunity to comment. So, clerk will read the paper.
271-24. Resolve. Whereas all life is precious, the Malden City Council calls on Massachusetts state and federal elected leaders and residents alike to protect life, especially our babies and children, stand against violence, and advocate for the safety, dignity, freedom, and collective humanity of all people, regardless of religion, race, ethnicity, or nationality. Whereas Malden is home to a diverse community, we denounce Islamophobia and anti-Semitism, and we are committed to fostering an environment in which people from all faith backgrounds are celebrated and respected. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Malden City Council calls for a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine, the freeing of all hostages from Hamas, and the freeing of all administrative detainees held by Israel, lifting all barriers to the provision of humanitarian assistance at scale to meet the full needs of the population of Gaza, and begin a collective undertaking of repair of damage impacting all regions and the advancement of safety and dignity for all Israelis and Palestinians. Sponsor, Councilor Karen Cologne-Hayes.
All right, thank you, clerk. I think, Councilor Siki, you have a point of order, or what's the point of
I do, please. I'm sorry, Council President. Is the National Grid person here for this petition? Because I don't think it's very fair to make them sit here all night long. I think, if anything, we should take this petition out of order before we take this paper out of order.
No, I've made the decision to take this paper out of. There's certainly a lot more people in the room that are waiting to speak and hear the council vote on this. So.
Can we just know, is the National Grid?
Right.
Oh,
I mean, I
okay.
defer. I mean, if the council wants to take a vote.
I am
move
not
it,
in
but-
support of that, Council
but yeah,
President.
so
Just put that on the record, please.
All right, so, but I'm making that, using my discretion that way. I actually, Councilor Sika, just to be clear, this was a request made by Chief Cronin to make sure that we deal that, so yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, this was a request by the chief, and I'm using my discretion in the interest of public safety. Thank you. All right, yeah, no. I don't know, but I've seen that happen before, so. but we're taking up that paper, so that's my decision and discretion, and also that's how I was, our chief of police recommended that we handle this tonight. So Councilor Hayes will speak to the paper. Thank you. Oh, 1 second. Great. Great. Councilor Hayes.
Okay.
Councilor Colon Hayes.
Cologne Hayes, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
All right, thank you, Council President. So, thank you, everybody here, for showing up. That was one of the main things and reasons why I ran for office, and is to hear the voice of the people. And so I want to give a little bit of history of how we came to be here today. So somebody had already mentioned that the mayor and the administration had put out a statement after the horrible bombings and on Israel, terrible, terrible situation. And there wasn't a mention about our Palestinian neighbors, our Muslims, like there wasn't any mention. So I waited a couple of days thinking at some point, you know, something else would come. And then I waited months. And then we started hearing from our people. So one of the reasons why I didn't want to bring this up, like I was saying to people, I didn't wake up one day and say, hey, let's throw out a very conflicted conversation for nothing. No, I waited and hoped that somebody else or our administration, something would come out, but it didn't. Then I started receiving hundreds of emails, hundreds of them, asking for a ceasefire, asking to meet, asking for something to be signed, even a mention of the fact that there are these wonderful people living in our city. One mention, nothing. So when they reached out after the administration, there was supposed to be a meeting, and I was like, thank goodness. Then there was barriers put on that meeting and lots of constrictions, like people who didn't sign the ceasefire resolution couldn't attend, and then it was canceled. So the community reached out to the city council. When I read that, and I read that they wanted to meet with any of us, I immediately just jumped in and answered, of course I will meet with you. So then our council president and I met. And we met with these wonderful people, and we heard from them, and it was a very diverse group. We had Jewish folks, we had, Muslims, people from Palestine, people a gentleman who was born in the west end of Gaza in a refugee camp. We heard from their family, all different opinions, so broke my heart. My intention is to have the voices heard. The fact that I could listen to them and the appreciation of just being heard, like all this could have come down to was a meeting, like something, or something being said like, you know what? We hear you. We know you live here, and we hear you. It wasn't done. So I decided I'm going to do this, and I took my time. I met with so many people, so many calls that I wish it happened faster. I reached out to our council president, to our council members. I met with rabbis. I met with Matthew here. I met with Lutheran Church, so many people to put together what I thought was the best, and I think it is, one of the best short, to-the-point resolution that can comfort our community and bring them together. So that's why I brought it here to Malden. I just wanted everybody to know that. Again, wasn't the first thing I would have loved to have done, but it makes me happy and proud, and I will put my head down on the pillow at night and be thankful that you got listened to. That's it. So anyways, back to now, that was the history. So you heard the resolution. Based on some conversations that I had with Matthew, we took to heart a lot of the things that you said. I do have my own, and so this is going to be a process question. I have my own amendments, I guess we would say, so I don't know in the process how they would go. And this is based on conversations from just today. We've been talking, and I appreciate it, and going back and forth and trying so hard to get something together that we can both be happy about. and I really enjoyed meeting with you. So there was something that we wanted to add at the end. I don't know if I do that now procedurally, like how that goes.
So, I mean, you can offer an amendment, any counselor can offer an amendment in language.
Okay.
So, I mean, right now, what's before us is the paper that, you know, the clerk read. I mean, if there's alternative language, then I don't know if we have something in writing here.
I do here, yeah, I don't know if I can send it to you.
Do you want it, so how do you want to read out loud what your proposed amendment?
Sure.
Are you planning to strike the entire language and present new
no.
language, or you said about?
No, that'll be hard. So there's an end part, because I heard a lot of Hamas. I will say flat out, Hamas is a terrorist group. I have no problem saying that. Of course they are. But, so we're going to address that here, because I did hear some feedback of that. So now, therefore, be it resolved that the Malden City Council calls for a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine, the freeing of all hostages from Hamas, and the freeing of all administrative detainees being held without charge or constriction by Israel, that all parties lift all barriers to the provision of humanitarian assistance at a scale to meet the full needs of the population of Gaza, and begin a collective undertaking of repair of damage impacting all regions, and the advancement of safety and dignity for all Israelis and Palestinians. And here's the part, be it further resolved that the Malden City Council calls upon our federal representatives to build a long-term roadmap for peace and stability in the region, to have two self-determining states peacefully coexist side by side, and Palestine have free and clear elections for a new government to serve the people as soon as possible. That was based on some feedback, so that's what I have.
All right.
Okay.
Is that your motion to propose that language? I mean, now we would need a second for that
Well,
to be considered, so. Does any counselor want to second that proposed
I
amendment?
mean,
Or do we want to leave it?
if not, we can leave it.
Leave it and then just discuss the resolution as is? What, is there, I guess there's another
Yeah.
question is. There's no motion. Right, so there's, no one's going to second that possible amendment, so then, otherwise we can proceed to have discussion.
Sure.
On the resolve,
Yep.
Are you done with
Oh, that's fine.
speaking? So,
Thank you.
so now it's, I open up for other counselors to speak. Any counselor would like to speak? All right. Let's see, who do we got? We have, so you want me, I can turn on your mic, Counselor Linehan?
Right.
Let's
I'm
see.
happy to defer if you want to respond to Councilor Cologne-Hayes'.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it ended the amendment.
Take Councilor McDonald first.
all right. Okay, I will have Counselor McDonald. The floor is yours.
I want to start just by honoring the pain that's present in this room. I hope that at some point each of you got a chance to look at the range of faces of your neighbors in this room, because we sit here on the dais and we look out upon you, and we're, 2 steps up here, but that's not how we live our lives. I have a deep appreciation for the honesty, for the courage that each of you have displayed in speaking before us. I know it takes courage, so I just want to start by acknowledging that. There are really 2 dimensions of talking about a ceasefire resolution from my perspective as a city councilor. One is about the actual policy and what we can do as city councilors. But the other part is about our community. And so I just want to pay you all the respect of telling you what my view is on this issue and what I think is most helpful from our community. There is certainly a lot of attention. I have tried to keep count up to the beginning of this meeting. I think I have about 1,400 emails in my inbox. About 10% of those are from Malden, from what I can tell, from people who have identified themselves as being from Malden. Those are majority pro ceasefire resolution, but there is significant numbers on both sides. I will tell you that I personally have supported a ceasefire in Gaza. I fully condemn the terrorist attacks, of course, of Hamas on October 7th. And I have contacted my members of Congress and focused my energies on trying to speak to them and their staffs about what I believe is the most likely to lead to peace in the region and for us. I am not by any means an expert in what is happening now or what has happened over decades or generations or millennia or empires in the Middle East. But my frame of reference, someone mentioned this earlier, is very much 9/11, a national tragedy that caught us by surprise, and this country took what was a horrible act, and we invaded 2 other countries. I was among the list of folks who protested my own government at personal cost against the invasion of Iraq. And decades later, trillions of dollars later, tens of thousands of American lives, to say nothing of lives in in Iraq and Afghanistan, the Taliban is still in power in Afghanistan. I do not believe that I don't believe that we can get where we want to go the way that we are going. And so I am very concerned about the ways in which this conflict may escalate and continue to affect us, not only in our relationships, but in what it will demand of Americans who are serving in our military, and the ways in which it will sow further division in our community. In terms of this community, I tell you that I feel that as a leader, I have not succeeded. I have not succeeded in helping to create the conditions and possibilities by which our families and our children can feel safe. I have spoken with many of the people in this room individually. I've spoken with you in groups, and I have heard directly from your mouths the fear that you hold in your hearts on a daily basis for yourselves and your children. That is not an acceptable community from my perspective. And I don't think that we have found a way to do what is possible for us even to do as city leaders in order to change that. I fear that by this being the first public commentary that the City Council has had on this issue that clearly sparks incredible passion, that is a hard place to start if the goal is for us to be safer in our own community. I want to commit my efforts as much as I can after this vote and this evening to supporting that conversation and that dialogue, which some of you may not want to participate in. And that is your right. We cannot force people to participate, but I hope that this is not the last time that we will talk about this, because this issue will continue. Violence will continue. And we need to find ways to help each other be safe and not bullied, recognizing that we will not agree on this issue. There is profound disagreement. In a diverse community, that is what happens. We have profound disagreement. So that's my commitment. Regardless of how I vote, I know that I will hurt people that I love in this room. I don't know that it had to be that way, but that is the way that it is right now. And I won't shy away from my duty as a counselor to take that vote, given what is on the docket. My plan had been to support the ceasefire resolution, and I think that there are some productive amendments, such as recognizing the October 7th attacks, that I think could be helpful. I don't know how to get into a wordsmithing back and forth, because the words really matter. And so I was trying to type as you were talking, Councilor Cologne-Hayes, and I don't really know how to process all of those things and try to figure out how to not do more damage than we are trying to do. But it matters to me that each of you feel heard. I hope that you will reach out, not only by form email that does not include return addresses, but also to email me individually. My cell phone number is 781-870-7665. I would be happy to speak with any of you. I'm sorry that this is where this conversation is starting. I don't think that honors the passion and the impact of this issue. But I'm committed to doing what I can at this point to help ensure that we have a safe community and that we are doing as much as we can to promote peace in this world. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor McDonald. Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Council President, and thank you, Councilor McDonald. I echo a lot of the sentiment that you've expressed. I'm also struggling with sort of the most productive way to proceed here and guide our community into a direction that helps everybody to feel heard, to have their hurt and grief and trauma acknowledged, but also to move into a space that's appropriate for the purview of this council and that touches on what our duty is as elected officials for our community. I think, I represent Ward 3. I think you'd be hard pressed to find another section of our city more representative as a microcosm of this room than literally our neighborhood. My children go to school with all of your children. We have our faith community, we have a growing Muslim and Arab community literally living next door to one another in Ward 3, and I know in other parts of Malden as well. But we are neighbors, and what I'm looking out at tonight is a room literally and figuratively divided. It is split down the middle. I don't know if the audience watching from home can actually appreciate, and I understand there are safety reasons for that, but it's rare for me to be up here and feel moved close to tears, but that's actually how I'm feeling right now, because this is a community that I don't think of as divided, and I think that this is not what I'm looking at right now. And I think as an elected official, what is really sitting on my heart right now is that what we are elected here to do is, yes, to listen and yes, to represent the entire community, but also to create space, as Councilor McDonald said, for that dialogue, for if there is potential for healing here and greater understanding, and for the entire diversity of our community to feel heard and listened to and not re-traumatized by what's going on inside and outside this chamber tonight. I'm actually not sure that we've achieved that. I think a lot of us have shared some very heartfelt sentiment, but I think a lot of us have also said things that were hurtful to others in the room, and I'm sure that many of us up here are going to say things that we would have phrased differently tonight. I mean, we are all humans and we're not perfect. In respect to Councilor Colon-Hayes' resolve, I took some time over the weekend reflecting on what many of you in this room have said to me as we've met, as we've had phone calls, as we've had meetings, as we've gone for walks, as we've emailed, to try to incorporate some of what the community has told me into what my colleague has proposed. My council colleagues up here do have that draft in front of us tonight, and I'd be happy to read it, but I'm actually not sure that wordsmithing is going to be the most effective way for us to move on as a community. My goals in redlining that version were really to add specificity, to add that local angle, to call out really who we're talking about both locally and in this conflict, and also to add specific steps that we as a council and as a government can take to begin to move towards that healing. At the end of the day, though, it's just words if we don't actually take action to try to craft some type of community dialogue. And so I don't know what that looks like. I'm having a hard time feeling like no matter what vote any of us takes tonight, a lot of people are going to feel hurt and a lot of people are going to feel abandoned, and that is just not what any of us are up here trying to do. So I don't want to stifle further discussion. I think I'm going to hold off from reading my edits at this time and see the sentiment of my colleagues in terms of how we want to move forward. But I really feel like a community conversation, some sort of bringing everyone together. I don't even like saying sides because I think that's unnecessarily divisive. But I will speak for myself. I have my personal thoughts on the conflict, but I want to speak in context of this community and as your representative that I want to be part of bringing folks together and not dividing. And so I'm going to leave my comments there for now. I know we do have an opportunity to speak more than once, but that's my very heartfelt thoughts at this time, and I look forward to further discussion with my colleagues.
Councillor Hayes for a second time.
Thank you. So
Colon-Hayes. Yeah.
Colon-Hayes.
Yeah, sorry about that.
So I agree with much. I could barely get out what I wanted to say when it first came up because of the emotion I'm feeling all in this room. I'm taking it all in. It's, I'm an advocate, an activist. I'm a Puerto Rican who comes from a family who this has happened with them, and just raised to bring up voices that haven't been heard. So that's where that was coming from. But I truly believe dialogue and conversation can happen. I mean, I was, the first to bring conversations to Malden with a great group on race. So I don't shy from that. I don't shy away from difficult conversations, which is why we're here. I put this on the agenda to hope it passes, but even if it didn't, so that we can hear from our community, and that's been done. So it's a win in my heart, but I would absolutely work on getting conversations going, similar like we did with Malden Core. They were very well received and organized, and I have lots of experience and professional experience to do that. So but not in addition to voting on this, not instead of, but I am very much will devote, and everybody here knows if I put my mind to something, I will spend all my time on it and get it done. So I will do that. So thank you for both bringing that up.
Okay. Just looking for any other counselor wishing to speak. Counselor O'Malley.
So I'd like to thank the community members for speaking this evening. Hearing from just 20 of you has been so impactful. We've received thousands of emails, over 1,000 emails, but hearing from people in person, there's nothing like that. Seeing the emotion, understanding the tone, the intonation, I think is so essential to start a healing process in our community and beyond. And that is why throughout this tragedy, I have consistently said to everyone I've spoken with that I think a community dialogue is necessary and very much overdue. I wish that didn't start, as Councilor McDonald stated, like tonight has in terms of this happening right now. I wish it had happened in a more intentional manner with more professionals who are much more equipped than the City Council here at leading these types of really high tension conversations. But that said, in the United States, we have fought extremely hard for this exact moment. The fact that people can have completely diverse opinions, conflicting opinions, and be able to express that without violence is essential to our society. And so I am happy that we had this conversation tonight, and I hope it does not stop tonight. I hope this is the start, and I hope it gets better and less painful. It's really difficult for people who do not have family members who are impacted and who do not directly experience anti-Semitism and Islamophobia to see it sometimes. And that is why when people can really express how they're feeling and you can feel their energy, I think it's essential for us to do our job appropriately. That said, we are still an imperfect community. We're still an imperfect union. We are still striving for something better. And I think that when it comes to this, the reason why I'm speaking this way, and I did take notes, so don't hold that against me. A lot of the lessons that I've learned and the habits that I've developed are thanks to the hard work of Malden Core, Community Organizing for Racial Equity. They taught us a lot of great lessons about how to have really hard conversations, some of which are setting norms for conversation, setting ground rules of what's expected, assuming good intentions when people are speaking, understanding that there is a difference between intent and impact. And whenever tough conversations like this come up, I always come back to that. And I think that showing grace and understanding that everyone's in pain, the entire Mediterranean for thousands of years has been going through trauma. I personally truly believe, as a Sicilian American, my last name is O'Malley, but I'm half Sicilian. I believe everyone in the Mediterranean are one people. I believe everyone in the Mediterranean is descended from the same people. And I think that when people are killing each other in this entire region, we are killing our brothers, we are killing our sisters, and that is my truth, truly. It doesn't necessarily bring us to a resolution. We're not going to solve world peace here tonight. But I do think this is the first step I personally would like to see more community dialogue. I don't know if I can move forward on this tonight without hearing from more than 20 people. Again, we receive thousands of emails, but it doesn't have the same impact. I'm sure you can feel how I feel right now. I am also on the verge of crying. I hope we can have more of this dialogue. I hope you can give us some grace to handle this really tough conversation. And I hope we can all show each other grace too. Thank you.
I know Councilor Hayes, you have your light on again. I just want to give the opportunity for other, because I might speak, I mean, what were you going to, what were you, let me get, I might speak if you're.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
I mean, I didn't know if you wanted to move it, but-
Just quickly, I wanted to address some of,
Okay.
this didn't come up right away, like here. This conversations have been happening for months and months, so I don't want anyone here to think like 3 days ago we decided that. We've been reaching out to each other and trying to reach across, and will you meet with us? Sometimes there was an absolute flat-out no, sometimes people would meet. So what we could do, because I hear you, we could build on what's already been happening. That's how I would like to word that, because there's been a lot of conversations here, and we're making some headway. And so if it can continue, that's fine, but I'd like to put the resolution forward for a vote tonight.
So we have Councilor Spatafora has raised his hand, so Clerk, could you have Councilor Spatafora available now?
It looks like she's available. Make sure you.
Can you hear us, Craig? Can we hear?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, yep.
So I'm not going to try to repeat, I think, what was my counsel is having very eloquent and certainly humbling statements. And I do want to recognize that this is something that, from my perspective, transpired during tonight's meeting. Is truly a remarkable display of what this country stands for. The ability for both sides to come together in the same room, divided but engaged, is a meaningful dialogue is truly, I think, what separates this country from many others. And, I'm proud as American because we know this is a sensitive subject, and that has been going on, as Council McDonald has said, since, the beginning of time, and certainly something that, unfortunately, this council doesn't have the power to solve tonight. I also do want to thank all the residents and the members who came into the council chambers today. Regardless of how many emails I received for either side, I will be honest with you, I don't believe too much I read in writing these days. And the dialogue from both sides has certainly made me change my views on my perceived perceptions, because even sometimes, like our news, we cannot believe what we're seeing or hearing on TV today. I do want to say this. I wish it didn't come to this meeting as our first form of dialogue. And I know Councilor Colin Hayes has said that she's been meeting with the groups, and that is great. But I think for the ability for us to continue this dialogue is really what's lacking in this discussion right now. There was constructive comments by both sides. What I believe was the overwhelming consensus in my view was the majority of both sides agree that war is not the path that they take or support, but we need to continue to draft a comment, I think, that protects individuals from both sides so that we can live in peace in the city of Malden. Because as much as we talk about what this resolve does, we all know deep down inside, unfortunately, it's probably going to have very little results at the state level or even the federal level. But what it will have is profound impact within our own borders of the city of Malden. And I will be honest with you, that is something I do not want to see happen. I think this community has always had open arms for everybody. You can tell by the mixture of residents we have in the room today. And the way this is crafted, nobody's going to be happy on either side. What I believe is needed is to continue this conversation and not push it off, but continue, meaning immediately next week. We have a community engagement committee that was created or re-energized this year that Council Colin Hayes has as the chairperson, I would immediately refer this to committee and set up a series of meetings over the next 2 or 3 weeks. And hopefully we can all work together as a group, hear each other out, craft a solution or a resolve that everybody can agree with. And if at the end of those meetings we can't agree, we vote on what I think the work that's been done by that committee. Because I'll be honest with you, I read Councilor Linehan's resolve. It has some great points. I heard from members of each side that has some great points. Councilor McDonald made some great points. We're not gonna be able to craft that tonight to make anybody happy. And I don't understand the reason to rush this, but we have that committee. I would make the motion to refer to that committee and immediately set up meetings and have an answer within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Thank you, Mr. President.
All right, so we have a motion to refer to committee. I have Counselor Taylor with a light too, so, all right, so I'm gonna call Counselor Taylor and then we can decide whether we're gonna take up the motion, so yeah. Go ahead, Counselor Taylor.
Thank you. I really struggled with whether or not to speak tonight and say anything, and I heard many of the counselors up here talk about almost being brought to tears. And prior to coming into this chamber, I was brought to tears at how much hurt and trauma and pain and there is in this city, and how much we are thriving off of fear instead of sitting down and embracing one another and saying, we are feeling this, all of us. We don't know what to do. I am sick that I don't have a solution, that anything that I say is not going to stop this and stop the killing, because if it was one of my kids, I would feel the same way, and I would feel the same way for all of you. And there is nothing that we can do that is right. And there has been hurtful words all over. I've seen it I've seen sitting up here, the looks, the feelings. We see it, I've heard it all. I've spoken to both sides. I want nothing more than for us to work together, to heal here in Malden, because that is what I am charged to do. Hear all of you and work hard for all of you. And I take that very seriously. I read both Councilor Colin Hayes' resolve as well as the amendments that Councilor Linehan made. There are definitely things that I would like to see added and words changed, because that does really matter. The words we use, the way we speak about things, and the way we speak and hold each other as humans right here in this room and hold our humanity. I would like to see that flushed out a little bit more, and that's all I wanted to say.
I have Councilor McDonald, Councilor Hayes. I would actually like to take a moment to speak, so I don't know if you would like to defer. So I just gonna defer, and then we'll call you up, so thank you. So I first want to thank all the members of the public who spoke today or provided written comments. And you heard from my colleagues, and I want to express my sincere sympathy to all my family and friends who've been killed or injured, kidnapped, or displaced on October 7th, or as a result of this ensuing conflict. The violent and brutal attack of Hamas against citizens and Israel's reflexive and large counter-response have been shocking and traumatizing to those involved and those witnessing harm, ranging to babies to grandparents. So I think we heard that, and I heard even more today from members of with families and friends on both sides. So it is shocking. What I hope is Malden can offer for the future is not just words on a piece of paper, but to be a living example of how people in a diverse community with many backgrounds, faced with language barriers, cultural barriers, we can function and thrive. I mean, that's really, I love living here, but it's also a challenge, and this is one of those nights that's a challenge for all of us you here. So it's a challenge. And one of the things I think, we've heard mentioned CORE. One part, what I learned, from those core meetings and great many people in the community, this room tonight helped organize those, is that, discussions focused on racial equity and that honest dialogue create discomfort. And what is necessary to move forward is to have more conversations and build more understanding. So I think this is a start. I mean, my role, I know I talked to several people about, I did not see myself as council president as being someone who should sponsor the paper, because I've been elected by my fellow councilors to help, make sure we run our meetings and have fair dialogue. So I thought that was important. But I did make clear, and I reached out to any counselor who, I did ask people, are you thinking about a paper? And I know Councilor McDonald and Councilor Lynn had reservations. Councilor Colin Hayes had reservations. That's why, because people knew this moment would come and were concerned. But I did say to anyone that one of the things I, as council president, want to respect is that you folks elect us. And one of the privileges we get as counselors is to put papers on the agenda to have discussed in the community. So I was never going to use my power as president to stop a discussion that any one of our counselors have. So that's one thing. So that's really important. We wanted to, if a counselor felt so, I supported that. So, one other perspective is just knowing, Maldonians, we take pride in the fact we gave instructions to have the Declaration of Independence signed and supported by the General Court here in Massachusetts and beyond. So we have at times come together to speak as one about important issues in Malden and beyond. And one of the things that came out of the Declaration of Independence and the Revolution was the First Amendment. And that talks about free exercise of religion. And what we're doing tonight is free speech. So those are really core beliefs of Malden and beyond. And I'm thankful that everybody came out here to respect those. And one thing to know about American history is that there's a reason why that's the First Amendment, because so many people at the time of the Revolution, they had fled other parts of the world because of religious persecution. They did not want to set up a nation that allowed a few people to dictate your beliefs or what you could say. So that's what we are here today to respect, and I respect that everybody did that. That's what we hear, that's what our democracy is about, that the few don't get to dictate the greater. So, we have the Malden of today, I think, is reflective of that. We have remained committed to the principles of freedom of exercise of religion and speech. And the diversity we see today comes from our willingness to welcome those that have had to flee religious persecution, war, violence, poverty, or being displaced from their homelands. Malden proved an early safe haven, particularly to Jewish families, and we were one of the communities. We have one of the oldest Jewish cemeteries in Massachusetts. We have had many temples, and we continue to have a very strong Jewish community. And one of the things I want to say is that I assure our Jewish friends that Malden's commitment to your safety, and Malden is a safe place to live, continues, and you can see that through tonight's meeting. One of the things on Memorial Day, we honored Bill Dempsey, a U.S. World War II veteran, who literally rode on the tanks that knocked down the gates at Dachau concentration camp to free thousands of Jewish prisoners and even Catholic priests who were awaiting execution. So Malden has been with people who have been pressed by genocide, and we continue to be there. Now, I have myself lived in Malden since 1991. When I first moved to Malden, I often sat with a coworker on a bus, a nice young lady, and I learned that her family had fled Lebanon. At that time, the Lebanese Civil War was the big issue burning in the Middle East, And I learned just how impactful that is. And certainly since the past 30 years, we have seen a great growth in the community, in our Muslim community, the growth of our mosques, and that type of thing. So I was welcomed by the imam, and we at our local Islamic center, and I appreciate sitting down with Malden for Palestine and understanding the challenges of people like Muhammad who grew up in the West Bank. And I don't think anybody who appreciates the freedoms we have in Malden would say anything that what exists in the West Bank has the freedoms that we have here. And one thing I do say for the supporters of the resolve, your voices are already having an impact. We have seen that just as Councillor McDonald raised voices for you at the national level, the United States policy has changed towards Israel. We have used our power to try to rein in. It's not perfect. Wars are very hard to stop once they're started. But your voices are making a difference. And I think the voices in the Jewish community to also understand. One of the things that caused me a bit of pause is to, and I think I'm in agreement of the, related to Hamas. I mean, one of the things, I've been a community builder since I've come to Malden. I'm most recognized for helping to get our bike trail done, to working with people across 5 communities. And I'm proud when I go down there and I hear from so many people. That's one of the best things that's happened to Malden. I see the joy of families being together, fathers and mothers teaching their kids how to ride a bike or just be together, grow food for their families. And I appreciate that that's something that's happened in Malden since I've been here. And one of the things I just unnerves me the most is when I see the pictures from Gaza and to see what's been destroyed and what remains, and to know that underneath that there were like building for, the intent to protect and plan for a day like October 7th. That really disturbs me. And I empathize to say that, to think that we would support a ceasefire that would in any way give a second opportunity for Hamas leadership to do something similar, that gives me pause. I want to give Gazans a second opportunity and Palestinians to give a second opportunity to build a better society, but it can't be built the way that happened before October 7th. So that's just, I think I am supportive of the idea of having more dialogue on this. I mean, that was something I talked about with Councillor Colin Hayes. She had reproached me when I got elected president about reviving the Community Engagement Inclusion Committee, because sometimes there are discussions that we don't have the capacity as a council. One of the things that both Councillor McDonald and Councillor Colin Hayes can appreciate, they were part of some of the core discussions. Now that we're city councilors, we have some restrictions. We can only meet in open meeting. We have to meet this way. So that's one of the things the core group, I think Marsha and Suad and others, we have restrictions now that we're elected officials on how we interact with the public, because we have to do it in an open forum. And we have, since I've been elected, allow the public to participate. But I would be supportive of that. I mean, I think I think the versions I've seen of the resolution have made progress, but it sounds like we want to see more. So I'm supportive of that. So I'll let Councillor McDonald and then Councillor Hayes. Sorry. What? What? How many more people do you want to die before you? So I'm sorry. Yep. Okay. All right. Councillor. All right. Yeah, we've had public comment. All right. Councillor McDonald. Thank you. And then Councillor. All right.
So
this is the councillor. This is the council that's speaking. It's our time to speak. The public had its time to speak. It's our time to speak. Thank you. All right.
I will be honest that I'm not sure that dragging this out a few more weeks is helpful. And I do think that amendments would be valuable. Frankly, my preference would be to just try to adjourn for 20 minutes and get the amendments that those of us who want to propose, get them in order, and then try to do that. But thank you all. Thank you all.
Councilor McDonald, I ask that you speak to the fellow councilors. We have to speak in public open, so if you need 20 minutes to draft something, we can take that pause, but
I am speaking to my colleagues, and I'm saying there is a motion on the floor to refer this to a committee. It's been moved and seconded, and I'm saying I don't know whether, my preference would be to try to proceed with this tonight. I don't know. The reality is that we will not all agree.
Wait,
All right.
point of information?
We will not all agree.
All right,
Did
please.
someone make that? I didn't hear it.
Yes,
Please.
Councilor Spatafora
And
made that
seconded?
This is
motion,
the-
and it was seconded by
okay, all right.
Councilor Sika.
All right,
So that is my comment on the referral to
Okay.
committee. That's
So-
what I'm
okay,
commenting on.
All right, so I think we will now take up discussions on the referral committee. Councilor Colin Hayes, do you have a comment on that? Or
But
just we-
if I
Yes.
may,
Oh,
just
go ahead.
to finish.
Okay.
If this council does refer it to committee, I would want to make sure that it is back on the docket on June 18th. Very clearly, regardless of whether we can come to agreement I'm not actually on that committee.
That's not fair. That's not fair. That's Eve.
Okay, thank you for that comment, yeah, right.
Well, as soon as possible and a clear
Okay.
date.
We do meet on June 25th as well, so,
Mm-hmm.
all right. All right,
So I wanted to see
Okay,
if I could make a
please.
push.
all right. This is the council's, please,
Okay.
please, this is the council's turn
Okay.
to speak, all right.
I know,
Councilor
this
Colin
is
Hayes.
one more over, but only because I know it's the fourth time that I'm speaking.
yeah.
So
Well, this is
I wanted to make a vote.
speaking on we're now debating a
Yes,
motion
a
to
motion
refer to
to,
committee.
I'd like to
So,
bring
yeah.
it to a vote.
Okay. So so the first thing we have is the motion
Mm-hmm.
to refer to committee. That's the first thing we will take up.
So we have to vote that?
We have to vote that. So
Okay.
is there any discussion on whether to refer to committee or not?
Hmm.
So Councilor O'Malley moves the question to move this to committee. Clerk will call the roll.
On Council Spatafora's motion to refer this paper into the CEIC, seconded by Councilor Sika. Councilor Cologne Hayes.
No.
Councilor Crowe. Yes. Councilor Linehan. Yes. Councilor McDonald. No. Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor Sika. Yes. Councilor Spatafora.
Yes.
Councilor Taylor. Yes. Council President Winslow.
Yes, the paper is referred to committee. So there's opportunities for further discussion. We ask that people orally, right? Please, you've had your opportunity to speak. We have further. All right, okay, all right. Okay.
We got 2 minutes.
Your daughter is looking for you, my friend. Oh, she's trying to throw up. I don't mean to be rude, but I can't even talk about it. No, you can't. No, you can't. Thank you. Bye-bye. She's out there. Yeah. I think she's down. Thank you for trying to speak. I love it. Thank you for being here, Lori. Yeah, yeah.
All right, for those, people can still stay, but we're going to be proceeding with the rest of the meeting, so please take your conversations outside. All right. All right, please. I call the council meeting back to order. Please, let's clerk call the next order of business. I guess we're going to go back
The
to the
next
original
order
order.
of business is the council agenda.
The consent agenda.
I'm sorry,
okay.
the consent agenda, the
Okay.
whole
That's
council
it.
agenda.
That's pretty much
We're
it.
gonna start all over again.
All right.
The consent agenda.
All right. All right, so this evening's consent agenda consists of meeting minutes to be approved, 2 appointments to be confirmed, 2 appointments to be referred to Personnel Committee, and 1 petition to be referred to License. Does any counselor have a desire to remove any of these items for the consent agenda for the purpose of discussion? All right. So hearing none, I motion to approve by Counselor Crowe, second by Counselor Sika. Clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Cologne Hayes. Yes. Councilor Crowe. Yes. Councilor Linehan. Yes. Councilor McDonald. Councilor O'Malley. Yes. Councilor Spatafora.
Yes.
Councilor Taylor. Yes. Council President Winslow.
Yes. So we have to take a vote on the roll call, a couple of reappointments, right? So what papers do we have to take a roll call vote on? So, all right, so we're good. We took a roll call vote. All right, so. All right, so the roll call vote for the consent agenda also approved the appointments there. All right, thanks for that clarification, Clerk. All right, and now we will go on to the next order of business: hearings, petitions, memorials, and remonstrations. Clerk will read the paper. All right.
Council will hold a public hearing on the National Grid petition to install new poles, paper 269-24 petition, Massachusetts Electric Company, DBA National Grid, plan number 309-77367, National Grid to install 2 SO poles on Forest Street, beginning at a point approximately 17 feet northwest of the center line of the intersection of Forest Street and Gordon Street, and continuing approximately 200 feet in a northeast direction. Install P2497-1 with sidewalk guy wire. Install pole to pole guy wire from P2497 to P24971. Install P24871 with sidewalk guy wire. Install pole to pole guy wire from P2487 to P24871.
All right, I declare the public hearing open. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the petition, please come forward and state your name and address for the record, and that would include the National Grid representatives. Speak. Go ahead. State your name and address for the record. Oh, let's see. Yeah, that helps too. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. All right, there you go. The mic's on. You can lift it up if you want. Okay, great. Yeah. There you go. A little easier for you. Thanks. Thank you.
Cam Hansel, National Grid.
All right. Can you just tell us a little bit about the proposal? Thanks. Great.
So basically, this job is to take down the guy wires that are going into the trees that are in the cemetery, and they'll be replaced with poles which will have sidewalk guys for people to walk under on the sidewalk.
Okay, great. Councilor Taylor, did you have a chance to review this and National Grid met with you? Have any comments or concerns? Right, okay, great. Go ahead. Oh, sorry again. Thank you. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. First of all, I want to thank you for being so patient with us tonight and being here. There were just a few things, and Chris Rosa is here as well to talk about the wires, the guy wires that are going into the trees in the cemetery. I did speak with National Grid a little bit about whether or not it should be their responsibility to remove the trees, and I believe that they are agreeing to that. The
tree company?
No. The National Grid should be removing the trees. There was a similar permit from 2 years ago from former Councilor Murphy with another guy wire that was going into a tree that was removed, and it was National Grid's responsibility to take down the tree. So I just want to make sure that that continues. and they are responsible for removing those trees. They'll work with Chris Rosa as part of the permit process, as well as there were 14 poles that to me looked a little off, that I asked them about that they did check out on Forest Street, and I believe there are 4 that they are scheduled to replace, so I'd like to make that a condition of the permit as well, that they have looked at these 4 poles and they have scheduled replacement of them.
All right.
Along with the other, and if Chris would like to speak, I'd
So
like to call him.
let's hold off on any particular motion until we have the hearing
Okay.
completed, but yeah, but I just want to make sure if
and
you have any
then
questions for.
Just to also work with the council, I know there's been the sidewalks have to be ADA compliant.
Okay.
So placement of the poles would be extremely important. And I know in the past, there's been some issue with placing the poles on the sidewalk closest to the cemetery. So we should,
Okay.
if there's any issues with that from other counselors.
All right. So do we have, Cam, do you have anything else to present then, or then we can, is anybody else here from the public to speak in favor of the project? Okay, so not hearing anybody else speaking in favor of the project, I declare that part of the hearing closed. Anybody wishing to speak in opposition to the proposal? Okay, I don't see anybody here to speak in opposition. So I declare the hearing closed, and then Councilor Taylor, I guess we will entertain your motion then. So
So that would just be to, there are 4 trees that are impacted with guy wires. 3 of them are dead.
so the one condition would be that National Grid be required to remove 4 poles that guy wires are.
They're not actually into poles, they are into trees.
Yes,
And they have
yes, so-
killed, so the 3 trees that are currently dead, I'd like removed as part of this permit.
So the condition that National Grid remove 3 trees that have been killed by guide wires, so that's condition number 1.
That was number
Second
1.
condition, yeah.
Was to work with Chris Rosa on placement and ensuring that the trees are removed because it's part of the cemetery. Those are actually in the cemetery. Sorry if I wasn't clear. Those trees are in Forestdale Cemetery.
So that should just be part of condition 1, that the National Grid remove 3 trees in Forestdale Cemetery that have been impacted by guy wires, and coordinate with the cemetery director on
Yep.
that. Is that good? All right.
Yep, and then the 4 poles that
I
they have
see
agreed to
Tree Warden
replace.
Rosa and Cemetery Commissioner. Did you have some comments on that condition, or?
Yeah, just clarify.
Yeah, okay, sure, yeah.
So there are currently 4 guide wires on 4 different trees. 3 are already completely dead. They're what we call butt logs, so they look like telephone poles. 1 is in severe decline that will have to be removed once the guide wire comes out because there's no bringing that back. So at a minimum, I'd like to see National Grid remove the 1 large tree. The other 3 butt logs we can do in-house as long as maybe they give us a few trees in replacement. So there are 4 right in a row. I know that in a previous application or meeting a couple of years ago, there was one at Nevada and Forest. As far as I can tell, it was before I worked at the cemetery, so that tree is gone, and I've already removed the stump. When I got there, there was no wire, so I wasn't aware that that was part of a National Grid agreement. So there are 3 current butt logs and 1 tree, 60-foot spruce that's got to go.
So your preference would be to say that National Grid remove the 1 living tree that's impacted by guy wire?
1
and
declining tree, I
then-
wouldn't classify it as living.
Okay, or declining tree, and then also.
Maybe a few
Then contribute money to replace 4 trees, is that sort of?
It can be just the trees, it doesn't have to be money per se.
Okay, or
It could be-
trees
Yep.
or money
Yep.
for the 4 trees.
The other 3 are, like I said, they're just butt logs, maybe
Okay.
20 feet tall. They are rotting at the base, so they are in danger of getting pulled out of the ground by the guy wires.
Right.
And one of them actually prohibits us from expanding our veteran section, because I
Okay.
can't expand it until that butt log is gone. So that was kind of how this whole process started. When I got
Okay.
there, I saw the 4 wires.
So Cam, do you think that, I mean, I just get a sense of National Grid, is that something you've discussed with your you know, the National Grid colleagues there? Is that something that, if that's a condition you can work with?
Do you know the pole number that those are coming off of?
I do not know the pole numbers.
Okay. All right.
So you have 2 poles for stabilization when there are actually 4 wires. So I don't know how engineering designed it, because it went from 4 guy wires and trees to now, I guess, 2 guy wires on 2 new poles, so. Yep, so between this pole and this pole, there are actually 2 other trees in the middle. One I actually missed because it's the one in decline, so it still has some growth on it, and I never saw the wire until a couple of weeks ago, so they may have missed it as well.
Okay, and so those would need to come out. All right, I'll have to talk to my boss about that.
So,
So I guess poles in the sidewalk are up to the city council.
Yeah, so,
We may be
okay.
able to discuss other options if that's not
for the
acceptable
80,
by the council.
yeah,
but-
so, yeah, no, so that's, yeah, I mean, we'll put a condition about making sure that there's ADA access, or,
Yep.
so, yeah.
So I did measure the sidewalks.
Okay, yeah.
6 foot 4 inch.
Okay,
So as long as they stay tight to the curb.
right.
You will have
Okay,
ADA
yeah,
compliance.
yeah. No, that's good. I know I dealt with Gloucester, there were some poles there that restricted access. It's a problem with very narrow sidewalks, so. All right,
And
so,
the only other concern is it a pole with another metal guy wire that's gonna stretch into the cemetery, or is it pole only? Because there are a couple along Forest Street that are poles in the ground, but then they have a guy wire attaching 10 feet up.
Ladies and gentlemen.
It stretches into the cemetery and keeps that pole straight.
are those like anchored then, or like just
Correct.
anchored? So, is that, are you asking for that to be changed, or?
No, I would like to be aware
If that's the new
There are
design.
any supports that are gonna be in the cemetery. That's all.
So, all right, so I guess condition number 1 is that the tree that's being impacted by, a living tree impacted by guy wire be removed by National Grid. That National Grid contribute up to 4 trees at the discretion of the tree warden to replace trees that have been damaged by guy wires. And then the National Grid work with the Department of Public Works, the cemetery director, to ensure that any new pole and guy wires do not adversely impact the, ADA access on the sidewalk or adversely impact operations of the cemetery. Does that sound good? That sound good, Carol Ann? Good.
I would add, in addition, we also would ask that the engineer be called when DigSafe is notified and the streets and sidewalks are restored to the satisfaction of the Director of Public Works.
Okay. So, that sound good, Counselor Taylor? You make that motion?
There are 3 poles that they agreed to replace as part of this as well.
Okay, and so then,
That are in disrepair in our data.
and so that's another condition, then they place 3 poles. Right, so, okay. Okay. You didn't happen to know the poll numbers, or, so, okay, so, all right, so why don't we put that on the record then, so? Oh, sorry again, all right, sorry. Okay, yeah, if you can give those poll numbers.
I do have the poll numbers. It is poll 2483. Poll will be put on schedule for replacement. That's at Boulder Street and Forest. Poll 2484. Poll will be added to the schedule for replacement, and that is on the cemetery side at Forest and Sylvan. And then poll 4799 is marked to be replaced, and those are the ones that
All right, so-
they have agreed to
all right,
replace
so
as part of
that's the
this.
last condition of replacing those 3 poles.
Oh, I'm sorry. Floral Ave in Floral and Forest, sorry. They're all along Forest Street and then those are the intersecting streets.
Great. So I think that's, so Councilor Taylor makes that motion to add those conditions to
Yes, please.
the grant. Councilor O'Malley second that. Any further discussion on that? So clerk will call the roll on granting the petition. Thanks.
Granting the petition with all those
Amendments,
conditions.
yep, as conditioned, yep.
Counselor Cologne Hayes.
Carrie?
Counselor Crowe. Counselor Linehan. Counselor McDonald. Counselor O'Malley. Counselor Seega. Counselor Spatafora.
Yes.
Counselor Taylor. Council President Winslow.
Yes. All right, the petition is approved with conditions. All right, thanks, Cam, for your patience tonight. So, all right, and then, all right, so next order of business.
Paper 270-24, resolve that it is the sense of the Malden City Council that it strongly supports the creation of a Massachusetts Chapter 70 task force to study and make recommendations for updating the calculation of required local contributions towards school funding. This is essential for revising the state's requirements to equitably and accurately reflect our community's ability to pay and for ensuring our schools and students have the resources they need to succeed. The council appreciates the Malden Legislative Delegation's advocacy for this task force. Co-sponsored by McDonald and Winslow.
Councilor McDonald for the resolve.
Well, it's my hope that this resolve is considerably less contentious than the other resolve on the docket. We didn't receive a single public comment about it, so that would.
You have school
I'm still
committees
digging through my
cyber
emails.
strike here.
So just very quickly, we spoke about this in the Finance Committee. One thing that's happening as the state budget moves through the legislature is that our state delegation has proposed a task force to study the local required share under the Chapter 70 formula. Now, this is the exact problem that Malden has been calling out in this formula, so a lot of credit to Senator Lewis and his staff who got this in the Senate version, and we want to make sure that it's clear that this is a priority for our city. There are other types of communities that are wrestling with this for different reasons, but our specific issues around property valuation, ability to pay, that we've named in previous resolves of this council are included in the language, and the school committee is also passing or considering passing a parallel resolution. And so I would just ask for everyone's support in sending a clear message to our state delegation to carry forth on our behalf that this is incredibly important for the long-term financial future of our city and for ensuring that our students and our schools have the resources that they need.
Okay, great. I'm just going to hand the gavel over to Councilor McDonald because I'm co-sponsor here. So, all right, Councilor O'Malley, that's your McDonald, sorry. Yeah, no, I appreciate Councilor McDonald putting this paper together. I know Senator Lewis did advocate for this on behalf of the city, and we've also reached out to the House delegates to push the leadership there to support this as well. I mean, this did come up in Finance Committee about things like how unfair the date for Chapter 70 funding, October 1st. You know, we tend to have lower enrollment. We have 343 more students at the end of the year than we do on October 1st. So that's the type of thing we want to look at. Also, you know, look at other type of things to, you know, help figure out how all communities are facing this. And I think the thing we did have Senator Lewis come and talk, you know, last month about Chapter 70, and I think one of the things that is being realized at the Senate and the House level is that, you know, in the economic environment we're in right now, where inflation is a bit up but revenues are flat, you know, the state and a lot more districts are facing the crunch of how Chapter 70 money works and the ability of communities to meet Chapter 70, you know, matching obligations when their obligations to, you know, are increasing faster than the rate of Chapter 70 money, and their ability to, under Prop 2.5 to raise matches. So, so I think this is a great start to have that conversation, and appreciate Senator Lewis's effort on this and Councilor McDonald's effort putting this together. Thank you. All right. Okay. So anyone else wishing to talk about? Okay, Councilor Linehan. Yep.
Oh,
And then
thank
Councilor
you,
O'Malley.
Mr. President. I wanted to just send a note of support, ask to be added as a sponsor, and also just in terms of doing my due diligence, I wanted to share that I did reach out. Many of you know my employer often takes, sets an official legislative agenda and takes stances on things like this. And I did want to just let the community know that I took the step of ensuring that we're not seated on this task force and we don't have any role in its creation while we support a change to the formula. My employer explicitly doesn't have a role in this, so I have clearance to vote on this. And I just wanted to kind of state that for the record.
All right, thank you, Councilor Linehan. Councilor O'Malley?
Thank you. Yeah, definitely in support. The only question I had was, is this in lieu of a funding, like does this mean the pothole funding fix is not happening? Is this kind of in lieu of that? I guess that would be the sponsor.
Yeah, all right, so yeah, Councilor McDonald, do you want to answer that?
Well, the pothole funding account that we discussed and was proposed by our state delegation could happen. We won't know till the conference committee report comes out. This I think, has a better shot of passing. And it's in the Senate bill. This is the first of the things that we proposed that have made it into the House or the Senate versions. I believe so it's now going back to the House or back to conference. And so this is the thing that is moving. So that's why we're commenting on it.
So just so I understand, this is in the Senate bill.
Yes.
And the pothole account is in the House bill.
No, it is not. None of the things that we proposed made it into the House bill.
None of the financial part. This is
Or the task force. None of the financial proposals or the task force were in the House bill.
Understood.
All right. Councilor Cologne Hayes.
Thank you, and thank you for pronouncing that right.
Okay, I got it right.
So
Sorry.
I just wanted to be added as a sponsor. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Any other further discussion on the motion? Clerk will call the roll. Okay, so Councilor McDonald's motion to pass the resolve, seconded by Councilor
Crowe, thank
Crowe.
you. Councilor Cologne Hayes? Councilor Crowe? Yes. Councilor Linehan? Yes. Councilor McDonald? Yes. Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Seega? Yes. Councilor Spatafora?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor? Yes. Council President Winslow?
Yes. Next order of business. Committee reports.
We have paper 272, committee report. The Standing Committee on License, to whom was referred papers 172, 191, 193 through 197, 227, 228, and 243, series of 2024, having considered the same, make the following report. Committee recommends these petitions out favorably to the full council.
Motion to receive the committee report?
All right, on Councilor Seeka's motion to receive the committee report, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All those in favor, will clerk.
Councilor Cologne Hayes? Yes. Councilor Crowe?
Yes.
Councilor Linehan? Yes. Councilor McDonald?
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley? Yes. Councilor Seega?
Yes.
Councilor Spatafora?
Yes.
Councilor Taylor? Yes. Council President Winslow?
Yes. So clerk will read the papers.
Paper 172-24, petition, open-air parking lot, TJ Automotive, 315 Pleasant Street, 15 spaces, renewal. 191-24, extended hours, Boston Pole Fitness, 888 Eastern Avenue, Unit 10, hours, 7 days a week, 4 a.m. to 2 a.m., new. Paper 193-24, outdoor parking, Andreas Cios, how do you say his name? Cios, thank you. 25 Florence Street, 34 spaces, renewal. Paper 194-24, outdoor parking, Andreas Cios, 29 Madison Street, 40 spaces, renewal. Paper 195-24, outdoor parking, Andy Service Center, 356 Lebanon Street, 12 spaces, renewal. Paper 196-24, outdoor parking, Robert McNulty, 28 Cedar Street, 14 spaces, renewal. Paper 197-24, outdoor parking, 3C Realty Trust, 54 Winter Street, 22 spaces, renewal. Paper 227, outdoor parking, Northeast Transport and Snow Services, 531R Broadway, 10 spaces, renewal. Paper 228, secondhand dealer, Infinite Garage Sale, Inc., 190A Salem Street, new. Paper 243-24, outdoor parking, AGM Auto Sales, 135 Eastern Avenue, 24 spaces, renewal.
Whoa. We did a lot of work last week.
We did.
Yeah.
The License Committee met last Tuesday to discuss all of these petitions. The majority of them are renewal outdoor parking permits. We did briefly have in a couple of new business owners for the city. We have a Boston Pole Fitness exercise place that's actually been in business for the last 2.5 years, unbeknownst to me. I had no idea. It was at 888 Easton Ave, if anybody wants to check it out. I think we're going to try and make that a team-building experience for the Malden City Council.
All right.
Coming up.
Or maybe
No, but we met the owner. She was lovely, and it's just like a gym. So she just needed some extended hours. Before we decided to approve that, we figured we'd have her in, because again, I had no idea that we even had that business in this city. And then we have a new secondhand dealer at, what number is it? 190 Salem Street, over across from the 7-Eleven on Salem. And that gentleman seemed like a lovely man. Hopefully his business flourishes. There was no issues, compliance had no issues, and all of these petitions were recommended out of committee favorably. So I make a motion to grant all the petitions.
So motion to, Councilor Seeker's motion to grant the petition, seconded by Councilor Taylor. All those in favor, clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Cologne Hayes. Councilor Crowe.
Yes.
Councilor Linehan.
Yes.
Councilor McDonald.
Yes.
Councilor O'Malley.
Yes.
Councilor Seega.
Yes.
I'm assuming you're saying yes?
Yeah,
Councilor Spatafora.
Yes.
No, you're wrong. Okay.
Councilor Spatafora.
Yes.
Councilor
You hear me?
Taylor. Yes. Council President Winslow.
Yes. Okay, those petitions are granted. Next paper, please.
Paper 273-24, Committee Report. The Standing Committee on Personnel and Appointments, to whom was referred paper 133, series of 2024, having considered the same, make the following report. Committee recommends this paper out favorably to the full council.
On Councilor Colon Hayes' motion to receive the committee report, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. All those in favor? Aye.
Councilor Cologne Hayes.
Yeah.
Councilor Crowe. Councilor Linehan. Councilor McDonald. Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Seega. Councilor Spatafora.
Yes.
Councilor Taylor. Council President Winslow.
Yes. So clerk will read the paper.
Paper 133-24, council reappointment, Brendan Brett, 32 Milton Street of Ward 6, as a member of the Community Preservation Committee, appointed June 16, 2021, term to expire March 15, 2026, and to commence upon the confirmation by the City Council.
Councilor Colon Hayes for the committee.
Yes, thank you, Council President.
I'm sorry, yes. Okay, spacing out. Okay, there you go, Karen.
Okay, thank you. We met in Personnel and Appointments Committee and did a very long night of interviews, and we recommended out Brendan Brett favorably, unanimously, to reappoint.
Yeah. I'm just going to take 1 minute to speak. Brendan came in after coaching youth baseball,
Right. He was
and
great.
he's head of youth baseball. He's involved in other, I think he's other things. So he's a great addition to the committee and brings that good perspective there for youth sports and recreation. So I appreciate his dedication to the youth of our community, and that he's willing to do all that work plus be on the Community Preservation Committee. So I highly support him. Thank you. So, all right. Any other further discussion? So on Councilor Colon Hayes' motion to confirm the appointment, seconded by Councilor Crowe, clerk will call the roll.
Councilor Cologne Hayes. Councilor Crowe. Councilor Linehan. Councilor McDonald. Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Seega. Councilor Spatafora. He's frozen.
Okay. All right.
I can't hear you.
But second, or yes, all right.
Spatafora, yes?
Yeah.
Councilor Taylor? Yes. Council President Winslow?
Yes, that confirmation is, appointment is confirmed. Next order of business, it looks like the docket is clear. Does anybody wish to have personal privilege? I think we got, let me see, Councilor Colon Hayes got there first. No, okay. Then I have Counselor Sika.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to wish all of our Malden students who graduated this past Sunday at Malden High's graduation, and the VOC is this Friday, June 7th. My niece Isabella is graduating, so I just want to give a little shout out. She has no idea what she's going to be, but it's okay. She'll figure it out. I'm old and I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up, so I just wanted to wish everybody congratulations, class of 2024. Thanks.
Great. See, Counselor McDonald?
I wanted to invite folks to the next Racial Equity Town Hall meeting, which will be on June 27th. And I also want to invite our whole community, may we have huge turnout next week, to our city budget public hearing. And we will have the opportunity to hear a little bit about the budget as well as to ask questions. We'll find a way to do that. If you'd like to know more about some of these wacky revenue streams and wild requirements for state payments like the MBTA. I'm trying to make it sound fun. It's really interesting. It is very consequential and one of the most important things that the City Council does. So please come 6 p.m. You can come online or in person next Tuesday, June 11th for our annual budget public hearing. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry, one more thing.
Okay, sure.
Just to my colleagues. My hope is to have a meeting of the Finance Committee after that, at which if there are any changes that you hope to request in the budget or propose in the budget, that would be a time to talk about those so that we can make sure that we have time for a response from the administration. So please come next week if you have changes you'd like to request in the budget. That would be the time to do it. Thank you.
All right. Then we have Counselor Crowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to remind people, and I'll send it out in councilors, that a week from Friday, June 14th, we'll have the annual Flag Day ceremony at 5 p.m. at Bell Rock Memorial Park underneath the Flag Defenders Monument. So we have the band, Malden High School Choral Arts, police and fire, and so I'll send out an email, but I hope everybody comes. What date did you say? June 14th.
Okay.
Flag Day every year.
Anybody else? Let's see, I guess I'll, did you have one more? Okay, let's see. Okay, you have another? Okay.
I'm not going to tell
All
you
right.
a comment. I also just wanted to wish everybody happy Pride Month. We had a great Pride flag raising over the weekend. It was really lovely on City Hall Plaza. Thank you to Councilor Taylor for re-upping on our rainbow crosswalks. We had a lot of fun painting the one outside City Hall. There's the one in front of the high school. Anyways, I know there are more coming up, so I defer to my colleagues on that. But there are a number of Pride events over the course of the month. I encourage folks to check out Malden Pride's Instagram and social media presence if you want to get connected. Thank you.
All right. Councilor Taylor, do you want to say? All right. I was going to say a couple things. So just coming up, looks like a quiet weekend this weekend, but the following weekend, Malden Overcoming Addiction is having its 10th anniversary, hosted by the Bridge down on Canal Street. I believe that's something like 12 to 5 down at the Bridge, but look at Malden Overcoming Addiction. Happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. That's Sunday, June 16th. That'll be before the next meeting. And then, so those are a couple of things. And I really appreciate all the councilors' patience tonight on a long and a meeting on a controversial topic. I mean, I think we did what we could, and we're listened to the community in a respectful way. And Councilor Colin Hayes let us know, however, we can help as a council to work with your committee to move forward on the continued dialogue. So with that, we will take a motion to adjourn. Councilor Sika, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. All those in favor say aye. Right,
Councilor Clone Hayes.
Okay. Okay, all right. I thought it was the one we could just do.
Councilor Crowe. Councilor Linehan. Councilor McDonald. Councilor O'Malley. Councilor Sika. Councilor Spatafora.
Yes.
Councilor Taylor. Council President Winslow.
Council President Winslow, yes.
We are adjourned.
All right. Thank you very much. Great.
Thank you.
All right.
Good night, Council.
All right. Thanks. Good. Okay. Good. All right. All right.